Well, now that the dust is settling, we're actually finding out more information about this whole India versus Canada conflict that Justin Trudeau is kind of trying to start a political war. Like, a lot of these increased tensions are because Justin Trudeau is choosing to, it's almost an act of terrorism on Thanksgiving for Justin Trudeau to do this emergency broadcast and say, hey, we're taking immediate action against India because they've murdered somebody here in Canada, a list of terrorists in India that we've all known about for over a year, but we're choosing a national holiday, Thanksgiving, to make this emergency broadcast, which is kind of a nothing burger. So as time has gone on and we've been able to fact check the different timestamps, it turns out that India actually recalled 6 diplomats, I think it's 6 hours or 7 hours before Canada expelled them. Right. Isn't that crazy? So Canada saw that India was doing that and said, no, we're just going to tell everybody, just blatantly lie that we're expelling them. And look, they're listening. They're already leaving. So we're going to be taking a look at that, but as well as Jagmeet Singh has finally chimed in and says Pierre needs to do his part, which, I mean, Jagmeet, like, how is he even still relevant? The guy is, first of all, he's banned in India. Second of all, he's holding 40 plus million Canadians hostage to this coalition, not coalition, but still a coalition government. So we got quite a bit to look at in this video. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage you all to smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. I hope everyone had a phenomenal Thanksgiving long weekend, you know, minus that panic moment with the emergency broadcast. But nonetheless, let's go through the weeds and take a look at everything, including just a light recap as to what the hell is going on in case people have not really been clued into what is actually going on. So just a brief summary of the polls. Pierre Poilievre has actually gone down. He was at 228. Now he's at 222, which is not really a significant change. Because, I mean, he still only needs 172 for a majority, and the bottom line of his current projections is 195. So that's still looking good. Trudeau went up only a couple seats. I think he was at 55. Now he's at 57. The Bloc is stagnant at 42. And Jagmeet has gone up from 18 projected seats to 20 projected seats. And then when you still look at winning the most seats and odds of a majority government, Conservatives still 99% likely across the board for both of those things. Now let's just do a quick recap at what the hell is going on with the expulsion of these diplomats here.
Stunning move. Canada has expelled 6 top Indian diplomats. Serious and shocking allegations revealed by the RCMP during a rare news conference on Thanksgiving Monday, warning the public of safety threats linked to Indian government officials. India quickly retaliated, ordering 6 Canadian diplomats to leave that country within a week. The expulsions represent a deepening deterioration of diplomatic relations between the two countries. CTV's Colton Prale starts us off.
Canada has told 6 Indian officials to leave the country, claiming they're connected to a targeted campaign of violence and intimidation against Canadian citizens.
It is obvious that the government of India made a fundamental error in thinking that they could engage in supporting criminal activity.
In a rare public announcement, the RCMP says it has evidence tying Indian officials in Canada to multiple homicides, extortions, and the use of gangs to target members of the South Asian community. But neither the RCMP nor the government would say how many Canadian deaths they're investigating.
Investigations have revealed that Indian diplomats and consular officials based in Canada leveraged their official position to engage in clandestine activities.
It's the latest increase in tensions between the two countries that have been escalating since Prime Minister Justin Trudeau accused the Indian government of being involved in the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a prominent Sikh independence activist who was shot outside a BC Gurdwara in June last year. Today, Global Affairs saying the 6 expelled Indian officials are persons of interest in the Nijjar case.
We're not seeking diplomatic confrontation with India, but we will not sit quietly as agents of any country are linked to efforts to threaten, harass, or even kill Canadians, period.
RCMP say they've charged 8 people in relation to murder investigations, 22 others in extortion cases, and in the last year have had to warn more than a dozen people in Canada connected to the pro-Khalistan movement about credible threats to their life. India has long opposed the pro-Khalistan movement, which seeks to create a separate homeland for Sikhs. Police also say their investigation revealed foreign interference in Canada's democracy, something Sikh Canadians have warned about for years.
The extent of Indian interference in Canada is just scary. And this coming out, it's got to be a step towards accountability. So this can't be the end of the road.
The RCMP presented evidence to India this week and asked them to lift some officials' diplomatic immunity, but India declined, instead withdrawing its top representative in Canada and other diplomats. In a statement, India rejected the allegations, accusing Canada of providing no evidence and smearing India for political gains. Meanwhile, Canada's top diplomatic official in India and 5 others were expelled by New Delhi and asked to leave by Saturday.
This has unfolded in a way that is really unique and troubling, and clearly something that puts Canada and India at an all-time low.
The Conservatives are calling for a full criminal prosecution of anyone involved. The NDP say Canada needs to do more, like sanctioning India. Meanwhile, Melanie Joly says everything is on the table. Heather.
Colton, thank you.
Right. So this emergency broadcast, it's so unnecessary to spoof Canadians in this. Like, we're taking immediate action when India actually took back their diplomats before Canada said we're kicking you out. But of course, in a somewhat what seems to be on the surface level transparent broadcast, that of course will not be mentioned because Trudeau is tanking in the polls. He needs a Hail Mary, and he's quite literally using this as that, and not to sound like a conspiracy, right, but as that distraction to take away from the fact that you have 20 to 30 MPs, Liberal MPs, that are trying to do this little bit of a coup so that Trudeau can get Joe Biden, right, get ousted from the party. They're writing this letter to kick him out. And when Justin Trudeau was asked about that at this emergency broadcast on Thanksgiving evening, his immediate response was, we have to worry about keeping Canadians safe right now. So, like, he's trying to just dismiss all of the bad stuff. And he did this the same time last year after the killing of the murder of this Najar Singh individual, right? Justin Trudeau again came out with these allegations. And he was in the hot seat. He was under immense amount of pressure by the Liberals at the time. And he just came out and said, okay, yeah, no, we allege that India did this. And everyone's like, whoa, what the hell? And as a response, India expelled like dozens of Canadian diplomats from India. So it's not the first time that this has gone on. And Justin Trudeau totes around saying, hey, look, man, we respect democracy. India is the largest democracy in the world. And this is how Justin Trudeau is treating that. Look, I'm not defending India. I'm not suggesting that what they've done is right and that, you know, all of this is just happening so fast. And I feel like, you know, I am appreciative of this kind of, you know, attempt at transparency. But at the same time, it does feel a little bit like smoke and mirrors. But I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And then you have the Sikh community in BC, their reaction to what is going on. This is going to have like immense trickle effects across the country in the coming weeks.
Shockwaves reverberate around the world from the allegations made in Ottawa Monday. At the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara, the reaction is not one of surprise, but of vindication. The Sikh community has been crystal clear in their belief that the Indian government is directly interfering in Canada.
Individuals like myself have multiple duty to warns against my life as well. So I can say this from a personal space as well as a community leader space, that it's shocking to us that this could be allowed to continue now.
Agents of the government of India.
Prime Minister Trudeau first made an official link between the investigation of Hardeep Singh Nijjar's murder and the Indian government. More than a year later, 4 men linked to organized crime are facing murder charges. Now, the RCMP have taken those allegations several steps further. The investigation linking senior Indian diplomats in Canada, including the High Commissioner Sanjay Verma, to criminal gangs involved in shootings, arsons, and extortions.
For our community, the Nijjar murder was really a line If you try and intimidate our community, if you try and silence us, we will do the opposite.
The BC government has been briefed on this investigation. David Eby says the BC RCMP has been given the resources it needs to keep the Sikh community safe.
I'm profoundly concerned about the safety of the Sikh community. I know there are many people on hearing this news who are concerned about their own safety. There are others who are wondering, how is this possible that the government of India could potentially be involved in this kind of violent activity in Canada?
The community, though, sees security through a much different lens. The BC Gurdwara Council believes the investigation must warrant a full-scale public inquiry and pursuing criminal charges.
While this is a very welcome step, we really do want to see, pursuing that diplomatic immunity that Mr. Verma has, these diplomats have, and is there any possibility of prosecuting them within Canada?
As has been the case since the first allegations were raised, the Indian government denying even the suggestion there is involvement. Retaliation against Canadian diplomats has already begun. The question now, whether those actions spread further.
Alrighty, so now we have the most interesting video of them all. We've got Jagmeet Singh, who's calling on Pierre Poilievre to basically stand with the RCMP's decision, which he already has. I mean, Pierre was the first to respond in an official statement by the leader of the opposition, right, on X, that he stands with the decision of the RCMP, that if there is, which it sounds like they've made an absolute decision, that we have confirmed that India did pull this off on a Canadian citizen, even though he was listed as a terrorist in India. Jagmeet is still trying to get this whole narrative that Pierre is not standing with this decision and he's not the right guy. It's just so bizarre, right? But anyways, fun fact about Jagmeet, pretty sure he's banned in India, which is funny.
Canadian communities. We saw in the past year an uptake, a serious increase in gun violence. And the RCMP is pointing to the fact that a portion of that, a significant portion, can be attributed to a foreign government hiring criminal elements. This is a threat to anyone that lives in those communities. Anyone that has family in those communities, kids playing in the parks where those homes were shot at or those businesses were shot at. This is serious. I love our country. I love our democracy. I would do anything to protect it. I can't imagine or understand any political leader who wouldn't also do anything to protect our country. And that's why it troubles me deeply that Pierre Poilievre is unwilling to receive security clearance and to fully understand what's going on. I don't want the Indian government, which is who the RCMP has implicated in this, and the Modi government specifically, I don't want the Indian government or Modi to think they've got someone in Canada who's willing to look the other way to ignore what's going on. We need to take an approach where we're all on the same side, that we're all denouncing this serious series of allegations, and that we're standing united to do everything possible to protect Canadians. That's why my team will be calling for an emergency meeting of the Public Safety Committee to look at other steps we can take to keep Canadians safe.
He's such a greasy little cockroach. Like, he's the leader of the NDP, right? We all know this. Previous leader of the NDP, now political analyst for CTV, Tom Mulcair, has quite literally said half a dozen to a dozen times on CTV that he does not agree with Pierre Poilievre getting the security clearance. He stands with Pierre's decision to not get the security clearance because that will muzzle him. Just the exact same way that Jagmeet Singh is muzzled. He can't talk about any of this stuff. He can talk surface level, headline, right? Headline quotes, that's it. But because he has that security clearance and he's seen information on the inside that's classified, right? He is exempt from being able to talk about it, which is crazy. Why would you want the leader of any opposition party in that position where they're completely muzzled? It doesn't make any sense. So he's using this opportunity to still try with the CTV's platform to throw shade at this decision when the previous guy who was in his shoes, the previous leader of one of the previous leaders of the NDP says, I don't agree that Jagmeet Singh is calling on Pierre to try and get his security clearance. I agree with Pierre Poilievre. Like, it's just such a stupid little attack, and it just shows how dumb and how much of the bottom of the barrel Jagmeet Singh is willing to go.
We will also urge Canada to ban the RSS, which is a right-wing extremist militant group from India that has branches in other countries, including in Canada, that promotes violence and division. We'll also urge Canada to impose severe and strict sanctions on Indian diplomats. We need to take every step possible to keep Canadians safe. The RCMP has exposed a very serious threat, and now let's take that threat seriously and act accordingly.
You received yesterday.
The briefing confirmed what was shared publicly, that this is a very serious allegation, a series of allegations. It confirmed some of the background on how it got here. But really what it highlighted is that we've got the Indian government, specifically the Modi government, that is engaged through diplomats in Canada, criminal elements that have then gone on to shoot at Canadian homes, to shoot at Canadian businesses, to kill Canadians. And that is very serious. As the RCMP mentioned, the briefing also mentioned that there are deep concerns for Canadian safety. And that's why I really believe it is our responsibility. If we believe in protecting our country, I love this country, we need to do everything possible to keep people safe and to keep our democracy safe. And that's why I'm committed to the actions that I've laid out, additional steps to see what we can do to keep Canadians safe by having an emergency meeting of the Public Safety Committee, as well as making sure that we take steps to ban this extremist organization, the RSS, that comes from India, as well as making sure that we impose these severe sanctions on Indian diplomats.
Are you being targeted?
It's not about me. This is about the fact that Canadians are at serious threat and serious risk. What the RCMP described is something that should be really troubling. When these acts of violence happen, if someone's shooting, if an organized member of crime is being hired or being engaged by a diplomat, which just sounds just incredibly disturbing, if that's happening, that threatens everyone that lives in that community, everyone that lives in that neighborhood. When businesses are being shot at, anyone that lives nearby, anyone that's walking nearby, this is a threat to all Canadians, and it should be taken with the utmost seriousness.
So he's said in the past that he was targeted. He was a victim of foreign interference. And it's just, this is the thing, is that he's not able to talk about it. He knows whether he was or was not targeted, but he can't give us a specific answer because he's muzzled. And this is the difference between Pierre and Jagmeet is only simply able to go after headline topics. Like this entire press conference, to summarize it, is just it's a nothing burger. But we're going to watch anyways to see what else he has to say. But it's absolutely pointless. He's just screaming into the wind.
One of the most prominent Sikh Canadians in this country. It would be notable if there happened.
As I've said before, it's not about me. I really want this to be about the safety and security of Canadians. And what the RCMP laid out is deeply concerning. And
okay, see, this is where it becomes extremely apparent that he's being super greasy and disingenuous about it. Somebody called him a corrupt bastard outside of Parliament. And he turned around and said, would you say punk? And he was ready to fight the guy. And now you have an opportunity. Look at the banner. Look at the headline. Singh calls emergency public safety meeting. Developing news. Breaking news. You got everybody's attention, Jagmeet. Everybody's attention. Outside of Parliament, corrupt bastard leads to you wanting to almost fight somebody. But now you're not using the time that you have, the platform that you have, the momentum that this is apparently trying to bring, to say, yes, as a prominent Sikh, I have been targeted, and that's why I think that we really need to take this seriously, because other Canadians, don't have the resources that I, as an elected official with a $50,000 Rolex on my wrist, have. Like, he has an opportunity right now to say it, and he's like, it's not about me. Shut the hell up. Are you kidding me? It's not about you. Come on, even CTV, CBC, every reporter in this country knows that the only reason you haven't called an election is because you're after your pension. But when you're talking about Indian interference with, murder and homicide in the playing cards as something that's already happened, not as allegations, but as tangible, real things that our RCMP has confirmed, which is why we're having these emergency broadcasts, right? That you're not going to use that opportunity to actually tell people, yeah, no, I've been targeted. Like, give me a break. It's so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
And just to get an idea, when we see the uptake of violence that we saw in the past year, and there was a serious uptake, people talked to me about that. They felt that there was increased shootings. The fact that a portion of those shootings can be attributed to the fact that a foreign government engaged criminal elements in our country to shoot up Canadian homes, to shoot up Canadian businesses. Like, this puts everyone at risk. This doesn't just put those people targeted. You've got guns, you got bullets flying. That's going to put everyone that lives nearby at risk. And so this is very, very serious. And it goes very deep. The fact that the RCMP's laid out that diplomats from the Indian government were involved in hiring and directing criminal organized crime members in Canada is deeply serious, and it should be taken with the utmost seriousness. And that's why I got to say again, I find it troubling that the only federal leader in our country right now that has not gotten security clearance to hear about foreign interference is Pierre Poilievre. I don't want the Indian government to think that there's one political leader willing to look the other way when this serious level of allegations are being put forward. And that's why I'm urging him to put partisanship aside, get the security clearance, know what's going on, let's have a united front. Let's be together on the same side against the Modi government, against the Indian government that's putting Canadian lives at risk.
Come on.
On the issue, that's what he says. He won't get the clearance because he wants to be able to speak freely. Since you've received the clearance, do you feel hindered at all? Do you feel you're able to speak freely about foreign interference?
Absolutely. I've spoken freely. I've disagreed. After I received the briefing, I disagreed with the finding of the special rapporteur. If folks remember, he came with a certain conclusion. I read the documents in that case, and I came up with a different conclusion, and I rejected what the special rapporteur had said. And so there is no, that's a false allegation. That is a false thing that Mr. Poilievre is saying, that somehow would limit. I've been able to say anything I need to say, that focuses on protecting Canadians, and that should be the priority. A leader should have in their mind the utmost and most important thing is country first, protecting our country, protecting Canadians. I can only think that he's making the decision for partisan reasons, and I'm urging him to put partisanship aside. We've just heard from the RCMP that Canadians are being targeted. Canadians are being shot at. Their homes are being shot at. Their businesses are being shot at. They're being extorted. And it directly is being alleged, is directly being orchestrated by Indian government officials. Knowing that, I can't imagine why anyone who is a leader in our country wouldn't want to get every piece of information possible. There is a reason why every other federal leader has agreed to look at those documents, has agreed to get the security clearance. And that's why I'm deeply troubled that Pierre Poilievre wants to be the only federal leader in a time when we have active threats against Canadians, that he wants to be the only leader that doesn't want to look at what's going on. That does send a message to the Indian government that there's one leader that's willing to look away. That to me is deeply troubling.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
It's hard to figure out.
Yes or no, Mr. Singh, has the RCMP warned you that you are being targeted by India or that there are threats against you? Yes or no? I think Canadians would be interested to know.
Yes, please, just tell us.
Canada being targeted. So I know you don't want to talk about yourself, but has the RCMP warned you?
As I've said, it's not about me. I mean, the RCMP putting forward the seriousness of what they've described yesterday should be enough for us all to be very worried. And talking about myself does not in any way help Canadians to realize what the RCMP talked about, what they...
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. If our political leaders, even if Jagmeet Singh, I don't like the guy, but if Jagmeet Singh is being targeted by India, to hell with India. Are you kidding me? You can't target our elected officials in that sense. Go screw yourself, other country. Sorry, but we're not having it. I don't like the guy. I don't have no respect for him, but Canadians deserve the right to know if that is actually happening. Because the person that was targeted, like, I'm not going to defend who Singh Nijar or whatever the hell his name was, who got murdered. He was a listed terrorist in India, all right? It's not really like the best outstanding person. The fact that India infiltrated Canada and pulled this off, that's insane. I don't agree with that at all. I don't think any other country have that ability to pull something like that off in Canada, right? Like, we're Canada, for crying out loud. We should be looking at people's passports properly and vetting them properly, right? You know what I'm saying? But like Jagmeet Singh should be using this, unless I'm way too, nitpicky about this. I truly believe that Canadians deserve a yes or no answer on whether he or other elected officials, leaders of parties, are being targeted. This is a massive issue. You want to rally people up? You want to get them on your side? Give us the answer. Give us a yes or no answer. If no is the answer, okay, then we can all simmer down a little bit. But if yes is the answer and you are being targeted, even people that don't like you, Jagmeet, are going to say, well, that's not okay, and we should probably do something about it. And you're going to have a little bit more social support, because that's really not okay for our elected officials, even if it's Justin Trudeau or Jagmeet. Like, that's just not okay. That goes against our democracy, and we can't have that level of penetration here in this country. So he's really, really missing out on a golden opportunity to give a yes or no answer to that question.
They've shared the allegations they put forward, the threats to Canadians, the threat to Canadian lives, the threat to Canadian homes and businesses, the fact that there's extortion going on. This is serious. And I want to focus on the fact that this is a threat to Canada, threat to our democracy, threat to Canadian lives, and that's something we take seriously.
An opposition party being targeted in a democracy is serious, Mr. Singh.
The reporters are fighting.
In English, I did promise you anything.
No.
One more question. What's been brought up, the fact that this is there's ongoing similar scenarios in other countries. There's an ongoing investigation right now as we speak in the United States. As folks saw in public discourse, there was a targeting and attempted assassination of an American. And of course, America is taking that very seriously. And this highlights how important it is for Canada to work with our allies, to work with the United Kingdom, to work with the United States, to protect our democracy, to protect our sovereignty, to protect Canadian citizens. I'll take one more question.
The sanctions that you were putting forward, I want to ask about the sanctions that you want to put forward. How do you balance that against Canada's economic interests and suggesting severe sanctions when that would have potentially devastating effects in Canada's economy?
I thank you for the opportunity to clarify. I mentioned very severe sanctions on Indian diplomats.
Policy.
So specifically on the diplomats, given the fact, let's just take a moment. We got the RCMP that said that Indian diplomats were hiring criminal elements to shoot at Canadians. Pretty serious. And given how serious that is, I can't see why we would do anything other than put in place severe sanctions on those diplomats, on Indian diplomats, given the allegations that they were involved in basically getting folks to shoot at Canadians, at their homes, at their businesses. So yeah, we've got to take very serious measures, but we should also work in collaboration with our allies. There are similar circumstances. There's an attempted assassination that's linked to the Indian government in the United States. We need to, of course, work with the United States. There's similar scenarios that have played out in the United Kingdom. So it's clear that we need to work with our allies to put pressure on India, but there's got to be accountability. The Indian government has to be held to account. The Modi government has to be held to account. And we all need to be unified as Canadian leaders. All of us have to be united in denouncing Modi and making sure we protect Canadians and put their safety first and foremost. Thank you.
Please, all we want to know is have any officials, have any elected officials been targeted by India? You want to rally a country together? You want to unite people? That's the way. Don't lie about it, but at least tell us the truth. Because if the answer is yes, everybody, conservatives, forget, almost said Republicans, conservatives, liberals, NDP, Green Party, everyone's going to be pretty much unanimously on board with, hey, that's not okay. Canadians, like elected officials, should not be targeted, whether we agree with the elected officials or not, by foreign entities. And yeah, we should probably take, extra precautions to avoid this and reduce our exposure to these types of risks. But Jagmeet isn't saying that because he's muzzled. Because he is muzzled. Pierre Poilievre, on the other hand, if he was targeted or if he had any suspicions that he was being targeted, he could come out and say, because he hasn't seen any security clearances, or he doesn't have a security clearance to see those briefings. So he could absolutely come out and say that. But the moment he gets that security clearance, he's not allowed to talk about it. I don't know what the rules are, the legalities are behind that, but I feel like you should still be able to talk about it. So, for instance, in a hypothetical but soon-ish realistic scenario, Pierre Poilievre is prime minister, right? Now, here's why I say hypothetical. We know Pierre's going to win. Now, if Pierre were to encounter foreign interference of some form where he or members of his cabinet are being targeted, I would want to hear Pierre, just like I'd want to hear Jagmeet, say, we are indeed being targeted. It's this person or a few people that, you know, we're choosing to not say their names right now, but we will once the investigation has kind of simmered down, right? Like, and you know, this is ongoing, but just for full sake of transparency, yes, we have been targeted. Or Pierre to just come out and say, yeah, I've been targeted and it's not okay, right? Like, I think Canadians want that level of transparency. And I hope, I've got that copium, that Pierre Poilievre will be that transparent government. But I'd love to know your thoughts down below in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree with any of the talking points? And what are your thoughts on, you know, Jagmeet giving these non-answers to quite simple, literally just yes or no questions? I think it's very disingenuous, and it's a time right now, it's this sensitive moment where you have the ability to unite a nation. And again, they dropped the ball. It just shows how stupid these people are. But that's the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen. Go enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys later this evening, hopefully for another update, should there be one. And if you haven't yet already, highly encourage you guys to smash the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you later on. Bye for now.